Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 8, Manifestation of Brahma from Vishnu, text number 19. Saitam Udikshata Abjanala.
Saitam Udikshata Abjanala.
Saitam Udikshata Abjanala.
Saitam Udikshata Abjanala.
Nadi Vidantar Jalam Avivesha.
Nadi Vidantar
Nadi Vidantar Jalam Avivesha.
Nadi Vidantar Avivesha.
Narvagathastat Karanala.
Narvagathastat Karanala.
Narvagathastat Karanala.
Narvagathastat Karanala.
Nadim Vichimbam Stat Avindataya.
Nadim Vichimbam Stadavindataya.
Nadim Vichimbam Stat Avindataya.
Nadim Vichimbam Stadavindataya.
Saitam Udrikshatat Abjanala.
Saitam Udikshata Abjanala.
Nadi Virantar Jalam Avivesha.
Nadi Vidantar Avivesha.
Narvagathastat Karanala.
Narvagathastat Karanala.
Nadim Vichimbam Stat Avindataja.
Nadim Vichimbam Stadavindataya.
Saha He Brahma Idham in this way Udviksha contemplating Tat that Abja lotus Nala stem Nadivihi by the pipe Antaha Jalam within the water Avivesha entered into not Arvagataha in spite of going inside Tat Karanala the stem of the lotus Nala pipe Nabim of the navel Vinchinvan thinking much of it Tat that Avindata understood Ajaha the self-born. Translation, please repeat. Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, enter the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. In spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root. Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, entered the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. But in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By dint of one's personal endeavor, one may go nearer to the Lord. But without the Lord's mercy, one cannot reach the ultimate point. Such understanding of the Lord is possible only by devotional service, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18:55. Bhaktyamam abhijnanati javan jasmita todha. Srila Prabhupada ki Omagyanatiram dasya Yananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschachadeshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Sa itam udikshatat apchanala nadivir antarjalam arivesha narvak gatastat karanala nala navim vichindam stat avindata jaha. Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, enter the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. But in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root. That's it. So this section, Maitreya is answering the questions, one of the many, many questions that Vidura has presented. In fact, I think it's in chapter 6 that Maitreya started. Chapter 6 is called The Creation of the Universal Form. And there, Maitreya has started to address this question of Vidura. How does the Lord create? Out of the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6 in their titles, and many more in their content, describe creation. Creation, cosmic manifestation, status quo. Chapter 3, the creation of the fourth order, so on and so forth. As we have mentioned before, creation is a big part of the curriculum of the Bhagavatam. So the question is why? Why creation is so important? Any suggestions? Yeah, please.
Maybe because it's explained to us that it doesn't occur that from nothing.
Okay. Right. Right.
Also, people are very concerned with this world I live in.
Right.
They're interested in.
Right. Anyone else? Why creation is so important?
Because it shows a little bit about God as well.
Yeah.
The greatness of God. You can't just go and love God without knowing Him.
Maybe more than a little bit, quite a lot. Yeah.
Shows that we're not the center of the universe.
That's a good one. It's psychological. We're not the center of the universe. Anything else? Why is it important to know about creation? Not that I have the answer. It's just I'm just wanted to
understand who we are and where we have come from.
Maybe the proportion,
Understand the purpose, the duty.
Purpose of and duty. Yeah. Okay. So wonderful.
Understand the cause of everything.
Yeah, that's the first canto. Janmadi Asyayato, where everything comes from, the Vedanta Sutra, right? And the Bhagavatam expands. Yeah. Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, Krishna explains in the Chatushloki, the first line of the 8th verse of the 10th chapter. Everything comes from me. Everything is manifested from me, probable. Everything. Right? So Srila Prabhupada explains, and he quotes Jiva Goswami several times here, and of course the Acharyas also, that we may understand that someone has created this, right? Some people think that this is just a chance, everything just fell in place, and everything is here. But those who are a bit more evolved understand that someone must have created this, right? Therefore, the concept of God is there. And so we accept, okay, someone created this, so God is there. It must be somewhere. Some kind of God or some kind of superior entity or energy. But Jiva Goswami says, but no one knows how he creates. Only the Vaishnava truly understands. And this is not to have an exclusivist approach. Oh, they don't know, we know. It's because Krishna himself reveals that in the Vedic scriptures, in the Puranas, to the devotees. But there's one important point here, a very, very subtle point here. And who remembers what's the verse that Prabhupada is quoting at the end of the purpose? Bhakti-ram. That's the famous one. Prabhupada, one of the most quoted verses Srila Prabhupada used in his preachings, in his purpose. Bhakti-mam abhijnananti. Very, very, very powerful purport, actually. 1855. Where Krishna explains that no one can understand him unless you love him. No one can understand him unless you love him. That's basically the idea. So, does that make sense? Or is one of those things that we just have to accept regardless? Does that make sense? Yeah? Why it makes sense? Why someone cannot know us unless they love us? I mean, we're not playing Krishna here, but does that make sense?
Yes and no.
Yes and no? Okay. What is a yes?
Like to love someone, to get to know someone, you must love them first.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
Otherwise, there's not going to be any transfer.
Okay, good. Yeah, and what's the no?
No would be. Say it again.
Because I said that, I mean, according to what Krishna is explaining, only someone who loves us can know us. That is what Krishna is saying, right? Only someone who loves me can know me. So I asked, does that make sense? So you say yes, and then you say no. I mean, I also have my nose, but I just want to.
Well, you just feel like it's a no.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense, yes.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
does
yeah,
not
yeah,
make
okay.
sense, you know.
Cool.
Well, if you love somebody else, that person's going to reciprocate in some ways.
Mhm.
But it's also, from a logical point of view, you can't love somebody unless you know them.
Interesting.
Unless you know something about it, what's the basis of that love?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you can't blindly just love somebody.
Yeah. Interesting. We're meant to think. That's why the questions are there. The Bhagavatam starts with questions. 6 initial questions, and then the questions expand. And then other personalities appear, like Vidura, and present over 40 questions. And then throughout the whole Bhagavatam, we find questions. Because as Prabhupada explains, as the Vedas explain, Atata Brahma Jigyasa, now that you have this human form, you're meant to ask questions. So questions are like the car keys that ignite the whole engine, the whole thing starts. It's a tiny piece. Well, now even they don't even use metals. They have other devices. They don't have the money to have one of those cars, but the traditional car key is just a piece of metal like this. But you just use it to turn on the whole big, machine. So questions are important. So the question is, why creation? And you all Vaishnavas have given so many good answers about that. Because we can understand. We can understand God. Interestingly also, Prabhupada often says, and this is from Bhagavatam, of course, everything that Prabhupada says is from Shastra. Or 99%, maybe some things are traditional here and there. But when we understand God, Prabhupada gives this example. It's like when you want to see the sun, right? In the mornings or at night, if there's no moon and it's very dark, you cannot even see yourself, right? Have you been in situations like that you can barely see your hands? It's so dark. But then you're thinking, okay, I need to wait for the sun to rise. And then the sun rises, and then you see the sun, but also what happens? And then you see everything around, and then what else? How about mention? Huh? You see yourself. Yeah. Drishtat evat manishwari. That's in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. The operation, the heart, open heart, what do you call it? Open heart surgery? That's how it's called. The open heart surgery is described. What will happen? Vidyate vridaye grantis. We will go in, the surgeon tells the patient, we will go in and we will cut. There's a knot there. Hridaya grantis in the heart. So we will cut that, right? And then we put a stem, they say, right? Stem. And then bhakti will be implanted. Will get into your heart, and then all these abhadras, all the things that are affecting you, tadarajas tamovava kama lobhadayasya, all these things, these unwanted things will be removed. Right? So bhakti is the solution. This is the message of the Bhagavad Shastras. Now we may say, what does that have to do? Or what does creation has to do with that? The point is, or the line is, that unless we know someone, like Prabhu said, you cannot love him or her. Right? That's the message. So, therefore, the logic is that we need to know Krishna in order to love him. Right? That's the idea. And in this material world, this is the perfect platform in where we can know that, first of all, the supremacy of the Lord. He is the supreme. He is the superior. He's the creator. He's the owner. He's the founder. He's the controller. He's the enjoyer. Yeah. So we need to know that. Why? Why is it important that we need to know Krishna as the supreme? Why is it important? I'm just going to quote Rirana Maharaj because I don't want to get in trouble. But he says that otherwise, if there's no reason, then God can be accused to be a universal sociopath. Right? I just want to be worshipped. I want to, everyone bows down to me and does, offer their lives to me. Why is it important for us to accept or understand Krishna's supremacy? Why?
His teachings would have no meaning if it wasn't.
His teachings wouldn't have meaning.
Supreme personality.
Okay.
Prabhupada mentioned that here, if the devotee and Krishna are on the same level, there's no meaning to his teachings.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Why Krishna's supremacy is so important for us to love him?
Because it is the nature of the soul.
Okay.
And you are aiming at self-realization,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to know what the absolute truth is, right?
Okay. That's it.
Because the example that Prabhupada gives is that we are part of Krishna, just like the gold mine and the gold. So we need to understand that we qualitatively the same, we are part of him, but in quantity we are limited.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because we need to know where do we come from, right? And where we come from, it will tell us what we are and what we are made of. Like Prabhupada also gives the example of the drop of water, the ocean, right? If you want to understand the ocean, of course there are many things to understand about the ocean, but one of the main things is to know its composition. So take a drop And then the scientists analyze it, and then they say, okay, is this much this or that other element? Right? So we need to, in order for us to understand ourselves, we need to understand Krishna. Right? The sun rises. See the sun? Okay, the sun is like this, like that, and has this effect. But then that helps me to understand myself. Right? Mental health is the greatest element in this. It was predicted. It was predicted many years back. I read this. In 2020 or for 2020 onwards, mental health is going to be all over because people don't understand. We don't understand ourselves because we don't understand where do we come from. We don't understand what is that we are part and parcel of. Therefore, it's important to know Krishna, and therefore it's important to know supremacy. But also there is Prabhupada has taught us through his purports, through his teachings, that there are what do you call that? Broader views of the Bhagavad philosophy. And there's very subtle, and the most subtle of that, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, what's the title of chapter 9? Most confidential knowledge. Yeah. And there Srila Prabhupada explains that 3 levels of confidential knowledge. The first level is that we know we are a spirit soul. The second level is to know that someone exists above me, and that person, the Ishvara, has created this, some force, even if I don't know exactly what it is. But the most confidential level of knowledge is to know that God loves, not only creates, controls, and enjoys, but He loves. Right? He has feelings, and therefore the word bhakti, it's brought into the Bhagavad knowledge. You know? And in order for us to have bhakti, if we take this and we accept this, bhakti mama vijnanati. Okay, so I need love to know you. So what does love mean? What bhakti means? Truly, what does that mean? Any suggestions? What does bhakti mean? I mean, the acharyas do explain this, so we don't have to over speculate about it, but we have a good sense of what.
But translated bhakti is devotional service,
Mhm.
as devotional with service.
Right.
So action.
Action. Yep. Okay. Anyone else? What does bhakti mean? Not necessarily the Sanskrit translation, but what is our understanding of bhakti?
Selfless service.
Selfless service. So it's not based on my interests, my needs, and my things. Yeah.
It's a continuous flow of sentiments between you and Krishna.
Sentiments, emotion. Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion, I was reading last night. You know, that strong feeling. Yeah, that connection. Yes. Anything else? What is bhakti? To be fair.
But Goswami says it's unmotivated, uninterrupted.
Yeah? Unmotivated, uninterrupted. That's bhakti. And with no trace or no mix or no contamination, of anything else, jnana, karma, nothing like that. I just want to know Him as He is. One of the things that Krishna himself, I don't forgot who it was, but I think it was Puriya Prabhu, someone was saying, that in order for us to understand the Bhagavatam knowledge, philosophy, we go to the source. Krishna is the source, right? And then we go and get confirmations from the acharyas, other shastras. Krishna is the source. So what does Krishna say about this? What does Krishna say about bhakti? In the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 9, most confidential knowledge, it takes, he does it. He said it twice in Bhagavad Gita. 934 and 1865. Yeah. The 4 items of love. We may say initial, but this is the 4 things. First of all, we think of him, manmana, right? The next one is bhavamat bhakto, right? Become my devotee, he says. Then, mat jari. What does that mean? Do something. You love me, do something, right? And the last one?
Never forget.
No, that's part of the first one. But what's the last one? Huh? Namashkuru. Namashkuru means respect me. Now, last time we were having the class here, and those 4 things. Now, we always have to try to think a bit deeper about these things. It's part of the sadhya, or the process of studying, is that we hear the information, then we try to assimilate it by reflection, and then we understand it. Right? I mean, this is even material knowledge. How do you prove your understanding? You do a test. You take exams. You know? And then you apply it. That's the way. Because sometimes we hear this, I'm not the body, but I act like a beast. Worse than the human body, you know? Eat like a beast, sleep like a beast. Behave or relate like a beast. So we have to apply it, but in order for us to apply, we need to receive the information, receive the knowledge, and then we have to process it, we have to understand it, reflect on it, and we have to accept it, but based on understanding and our capacity, cognitive capacity of processing things. Otherwise, it's just blind following, which is not helpful. So, Krishna explains in this 934 and 1865, he said it twice, exactly the same words. At least half of those 2 verses are identical. So we have to think, does that make sense? That we need to, just an example, in a relationship, if you want to have a good relationship with someone, doesn't have to be marital, doesn't have to be romantic relationship necessarily, but in order for us to have a good relationship with someone, the basis of relationship is that you have to be conscious of that person. Yes or no? Think about the people that you're related to, love or so. You need to think of that person. I know that Prabhu doesn't like me to do this or to do that or to say this or to whatever it is. So I don't do it, right? And whatever he likes or she likes, I try to do. You know, I know my friend likes this food or this whatever, music or something, right? So you are conscious of that person. I don't even know who's the prime minister lately. So disconnected. But anyway, imagine the prime minister comes, right? It would be a big event, and things would be decorated, and the devotees would be lined up, and you know, when these people come, and everyone will be conscious of that person, and just be careful, and bodyguards, and the camera crews, and assistants, and all that. You become very conscious of that person, right? So in the same way, when we're talking about Krishna, we have to be very conscious of him. That's why this movement is called Krishna consciousness. So what does that mean? That the person is here, and I'm going to try to make him feel comfortable, maybe make him feel welcome. That's the first point, manmana. And then in relationships also, let's try to unpack this. Bhavamat bhakto. Bhavamat bhakto means that sometimes in English you use the word devoted, right? Correct? Devoted. Devoted husband, devoted wife, devoted player, devoted worker. Do we use that? Right? It's proper grammar, right? And what devoted means? What's another synonym, what's another word for devoted? What does that devoted mean?
Committed.
Committed. Good one. That's the word. Committed. I make a commitment. I have a relationship. I am conscious of this person. I behave in a way that pleases that person, and vice versa. And I'm committed. You know, the mantra that I never remember properly. Until death do us apart. Right? That's commitment. I signed the paper for 7 lifetimes or whatever the Vedic version is. Right? So it's commitment. I become friends with someone. The understanding is that I am a friend for good, for life. Right? Not that I'm a friend now, but then after 2 weeks I don't pay attention to you, I don't care about you, I don't greet you anymore. What kind of friend is that? So these things make sense. I'm conscious of you, think of you, I am committed to this relationship. And then something practical, right? And close friends, and particularly couples, do know this, right? And what is that? That, I always say this, so sorry, I don't need to tire you with the same things. But what happens in a couple? What's something that you need to remember religiously? Huh? Any dates? Huh? Anniversaries? Birthdays? Etc. Right? It has to be. So, when you remember that, what do you generally have to do in those occasions? Ladies, don't be shy, you can say it. What do you have to do? Men, we should know.
Celebrate.
You have to celebrate. You have to buy a gift. Do something practical. Oh, yeah, I remember you. And then where's my gift? Huh? Where's the celebration? I love you, but I didn't buy anything. No, that doesn't work. This is premarital counseling. Or postmarital counseling. So if we love somebody, we need to do something for that someone. Practical. No, it's not, Prabhupada used to say, otherwise it's just lip service. I love you, but I don't do anything for you. Right? I love you, but I don't come to see you. I love you, but I don't care what you want. That's not love. It's just lip service. So Krishna explains, think of me, commit to this relationship, and do something practical. Jayi. Jayi means do something practical. Every day devotees offer flowers. Every day devotees offer so many things. They prepare the plates. They do this. They cook for them. They dress them every day. Right? Because of love. And then the final one. What's the final one? Mat Taji. Mat Namashkuru. Namashkuru. I was saying last night in India, you go around, just do like this. And what did you say? What do you say? Namaste. And what does namaste means? Not me. No. Namaste. Like in Spanish we say usted. Means you are higher. Like in Bengali they say apni. Apni means, to me means you. But apni means someone higher. So namaste means you are higher. That's the principle. In other words, what Krishna is saying is show some respect. Right? Show some respect. Isn't it? Relationships, I work in this field of relationships and things like that. And it's rampant. Relationships break. Why? Because somebody disrespected the other person, disrespected the relationship. So what Krishna is saying makes sense. It's not that, like Maharaj would say, it's not a universal psychopath or sociopath. He just wants to torture us. It makes sense. This is what love is. And it applies to the Supreme, and it also applies to us. So think of me, commit to the relationship, do something practical, and respect me. That's what Krishna is showing us. This is not a fanatic proposal. It makes sense. So Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, enter the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. But in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root. Prabhupada really likes this point. And if we read some of these purports, it's going back to the same point. You cannot know Krishna unless Krishna manifests himself. You know? So, and further, he concludes. You can see sometimes Prabhupada is like weaving, you say weaving, right? His purpose, and he's presenting a point. It's very clear if we analyze and scrutinize and we study scrutinizing his books, how Prabhupada is teaching us what Krishna is teaching in the Bhagavad Gita, what the great sages, saintly devotees are teaching in the Bhagavatam. Through his purpose, he's saying this is what he's showing. He says in one of the purports, he says, after penetrating for millions of years, Lord Brahma could understand. First he couldn't understand, but later he could understand, because the Lord manifested his truth, his tattva in his heart. Lord Brahma could understand the transcendental form of the Lord, Sri Krishna, in the dress of a cowherd boy. And thus, he recorded his experience in the Brahma Samhita, in the famous prayer, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Right? So the purpose of these teachings is that we may endeavor, and we have to endeavor, but that it's not a mechanical endeavor. So that means that, okay, I pay, like you have these little machines and you put a coin and then the machine starts doing something. So you put your donation, you do your japa, you do many things in your lifetime. So Krishna has to manifest himself. That attitude, it won't take us far. And therefore Lord Chaitanya appears, and then he explains in, what is it, in the last couple of stanzas of the Shikshastaka. What is that one? Aslisha Vapadaratam Vinashtumam Adharashanam. Even if I don't see you, it's okay. That's what he's saying. Even if I don't see you. Adarshana means I don't see you. We all come for darshan, right? And here you have not too many devotees, and the place is spacious enough for all of us. But in some temples, especially in India, in Mayapur, every morning it's a crowd, and you barely can come close to the deities, isn't it? And then you have, I remember now because I lived there for quite some time, and then generally devotees, prabhus, matais, you have to mentally make your way like that, and you think, okay, here is the pillar, and I know if I go next to the pillar, and then the deities will come this way, and Prabhupada come this way. Then when he turns, then I'm right in front of Nishinghari. So you can see everyone is, moving strategically, to be close to the deities. And then the same with Panchatattva, like that, or Prabhupada, like that. So the devotees try to be close to the deities. So that's the idea, that even if you are so close, imagine, Lord Brahma was right there. It's like he was up here, then he went down here, but he couldn't see. He couldn't understand. Because until Krishna manifests himself, Bhakti-mama Vijnanati, you cannot know me. You can be next to it. Prabhupada gives example of the king being on his throne, and the fly comes. The fly lands on the king's lap. But we cannot say that the fly is the closest person to the king. Because what? The person who knows the king is the person who loves him and serves him and understands him, like that. And you can say that's the closest, but not the ant or the fly or whatever other insects may be around, like that. There was a little ant right here, you can say, oh yeah, this ant is the one that knows the most the Bhagavatam, because it's just so close. So it's not a physical proximity. Prabhupada often said that the relationship with Krishna, the relationship with the spiritual master, is not determined, conditioned, or hampered by space and time. I remember when I was traveling in America, I met many Prabhupada disciples, and in South America I also have met Prabhupada disciples who never met Prabhupada. Right? Have you met disciples of Prabhupada? Never met Prabhupada. I met a few, and I was surprised. and they are there, fixed. And they never met Prabhupada. In South America also. They just received the letter, the beads, somebody else chanted, somebody else did the jagya. They never met Prabhupada, right? So the point here, and I'm just going to take this to finish, the word manifestation. Sometimes the titles of the chapters, like in the Bhagavad Gita, they have a meaning in regards of the content of the chapter. And the key word here is manifestation. We need to pray for that manifestation to happen. But as Lord Chaitanya said, if it happens, happens. If it doesn't happen, still we love you. That's love. Prabhu said selfless. And Prabhupada often used that word also. Selfless service. I'm going to do it regardless. But that is easier said than done. Because if Krishna doesn't manifest, as we know, right, it's very painful and sometimes confusing. Right? Sometimes you want something or you're struggling with something and Krishna takes his time. You realize that? Krishna takes his time, and sometimes you think, when is this horrible weather going to go? And Krishna takes his time. Right? You agree?
I agree. My father said this really nice analogy about this. Krishna takes his time. He says, you can go and knock on somebody's door, right?
Right.
You can be knocking.
Yep.
That person behind the door has every right whether to answer the door or not.
Or not.
Right? Depending on how you're knocking on the door.
Mm.
And how many times you're going to knock on the door. You might say, okay, you're knocking, come back tomorrow.
Right.
Knocking some more, there's some determination. So he's saying so Krishna's there, he's listening always.
Mm.
And he can hear, okay, he's determined, he
Right.
wants to come inside.
Yeah.
So he's knocking some more, come back tomorrow. So Krishna reserves every right to do that.
Swarat, he's independent. Yeah.
So, but then once he sees how knocking becomes so pleasing,
Right.
yeah, he might or may not. But it's just like
Open the
Prabhu
door.
said,
Mm.
he can open the door.
Right.
And in an instant. And then
So that's a good one. How do you knock the door? How do you knock Krishna's door?
yeah, so far.
With love or with a demanding? The only exception to this is that famous verse. I heard many senior devotees talk about this famous verse. Some of you surely know. It's in 10th canto. Tattenu kampam shushamik shamanam kunjana evadma vitam dipakam. Ditvak vapurvid, with my heart, with my words, and with my body. Vidadam namaste. What's that? Jiveta samukti pade satayavak. That it's my rightful claim, says the translation. It's my rightful claim. It sounds a little demanding. I remember, if some of you knew Kurmarupa Prabhu, Vrindavan, Kurmarupa Prabhu, the cowherd boy, man, passed away. I remember him explaining, I never heard an explanation so deep, that it seems like demanding, but it's not a demand out of anger or out of, what do you call that? Entitlement. But out of love. You promise me that, that you will manifest yourself to me. And here I am, I don't see you. And many, many stories like that. Lord Chaitanya's pastime, Hanuman. Where's my Lord? I know it's Lord Ram. Oh, it's in your heart. It's the heart, So, our request to the Lord, it's not out of you have to. But please, you promise. Homework for those who are studying Bhagavad Gita. How many times Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you will come to me? How many times? Just read it scrutinizing. How many times? Mame vaisyasi, satyam te, mame vaisyasi, juptaivam. How many times? Because Krishna is offering that. If you know me, you will come to me. If you love me, you will know me, and you will come to me. That's what he's offering. Even if you are close to the deities, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you love him or you know him. They have other reasons. So we stop here, otherwise we penalize. Is there any questions? Any points? In a few seconds. Questions? No?
Just a comment, I was thinking, when you were talking about that sort of misunderstanding of love, or what does love entail or imply. And I was thinking, like in this country and others, we have an epidemic of like domestic violence, where usually males are wreaking violence on their partner in the name of love.
Mm.
It's like such an abysmal misunderstanding of what the word means.
Yeah. In the name of love, like the song says. And I forgot, my apologies, to mention that today is ISKCON Corporation. And I had done a whole research on it by the insistence of Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. And I had a whole thing prepared and just, because somehow I just miscalculated as usual the time. And Bhagavatam is so, I've been reading about the verse and the purports and all these things, and then I was doing that. Today, Srila Prabhupada, we may say, created ISKCON, July 11, 1966. And I was hearing a few memories from Mukunda Maharaj, who was the first signature. And when the devotees are interviewing him, he says, for Prabhupada, it was a fact. You just have to sign it. He didn't even read, just signed it. And Maharaj explains that I had this sense that it was meant to happen, and you're just meant to be part of it. So don't even think about it. Not that Prabhupada said don't read it. He just came, he had this, feeling or realization. This is meant to happen. So I just signed. So 9 devotees signed, and well, in the Lilamrita, he said, none of them were committed to Krishna consciousness. And they just signed, But the point of ISKCON being created is, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ham Bija Pradapita. Bija means seed. I'm the seed-giving father. And Prabhupada did say, Krishna took birth in the womb of ISKCON. That's a very powerful, he didn't say it once, he said it a few times. Prabhupada took birth in the womb of ISKCON. But he took birth because he himself planted the seed. And the seed is explained in the Puranas. I have a presentation on Lord Chaitanya's appearance. There are like 20 Puranas that explain the Lord's desire and the process and the predictions. He wanted to come in Kali Yuga, he wanted to come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radharani, I'm paraphrasing, said, you're not going alone. If you're going, we all are going. So she said, okay, I will arrange Mayapur. Mayapur was created by Srimati Radharani. And, different things will come in different ways. The gopis will come in male forms, etc., etc. So many details. And then finally, Lord Chaitanya appears and manifested broken the storehouse of love of Godhead. Right? So the path of Sankirtan is established, and for quite some time everything was carried out. But then for 150 years, I think it's 1850 or something like that, no, 1750 till 1800 something. Yeah, that was what they call the dark ages of Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava, because there wasn't much happening. It was just some people in Mayapur, some people in Vrindavan, some people somewhere practicing the path that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur arrives, and then he reestablishes. He finds the Yoga Peeth, establishes Mayapur, and he passes that to his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who established Gaudiya Math, and then he passes that to Srila Prabhupada, who comes to America, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sent book to Europe and to North America. Now they found another one, I don't know if you have seen. Of course, the one in Canada, in the McGill University, Prabhupada himself saw that one. He says, so I saw, my disciples found it, and then they showed the book that Bhaktivinoda Thakur sent, which is called Teachings and Precepts of Lord Chaitanya. And then they found another one in Germany, one of the universities. He said, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur had this vision that Krishna consciousness needs to be expanded all over the world. And remember that Bhaktivinoda Thakur practically, there was no temples. There were 500 groups of devotees practicing at home. Grihasthas mostly, not sannyasis and brahmacharis. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati established the Gaudiya Math, and then Prabhupada goes to America and establishes ISKCON. And here we are. How many years after? For 57 years. Happy birthday, ISKCON. All right. So, anything else?
Is it too late? Is it too late for me to ask a question?
Sure, please.
Well, thanks for the class. You were explaining that bhakti means when you do service in an unmotivated and kind of spontaneous mood. But I think it also explains in the scripture, in the Nectar of Instruction, that for service to be proper and bona fide, it needs to be given by an authority figure. So
It needs to be given by an authority?
Authority.
Yeah.
So how does this play in with being unmotivated and spontaneous? Can you elaborate?
How to make it unmotivated?
Well, how it plays in together.
Okay. Unmotivated and uninterrupted. That's what Bhagavatam says. Well, like Gurujan Prabhu would say, I'm the worst person to answer that question. Unmotivated means that's why it's recommended that we take it from a devotee, because you just do it not for you, but for someone else. That's the practice. So you're doing it for someone else. Somebody told you to wash the pots, so you wash the pots. It's not that you have a particular fixation with washing pots or cleaning toilets, but you were told to do that. That's it used to be the Bhakta standard, even in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's time. Just wash the pots, and then you will understand. But unmotivated means that I'm not doing this to be known as the, most humble Bhakta, or the most, whatever it is, temple president, manager, or collector, sankirtan, preacher, nothing. I'm just a servant, Nimitra Bhavasya Vyasachin. Krishna tells Arjuna, just become an instrument. My will, that's it. You just do it. So, Prabhupada was in 1977 in Rishikesh, and he was showing the devotees how to cook. And the famous Tamal Krishna Maharaj was next to him. And Prabhupada was teaching them how to do puya chapatis. And they need to pop, they need to, puff. So they couldn't get it, Bhakti Maharaj was there, Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj, being the personality that he was, so he just took over. It was like, it didn't work out. Prabhupada pushed him, said, move. And he started doing it like this. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj had this habit, he tells, that he always says, I know. Sometimes people have, you say things, when you get nervous. I know. So he kept saying, I know. Prabhupada would say, no, you just do like this. I know. And he says, like that. And Prabhupada put the thing. You don't know anything. That's your problem. You don't know anything. Shut up. Listen and learn. And this is Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was the most powerful, most influential leader at that time. 1977, January or February, or whenever they were in Rishikesh. And he's treating him like the Bhakta. And in many instances, particularly with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, you don't know nothing. And then just humbly, okay, okay. And that's the mood that, you're just doing it not for your ego, not because you think you know, not because you are someone. Even Brahma can think, I know, I have 4 heads. I better know, right? 1 head, I think I know. Imagine 4 heads. It's unmotivated. Jnanam abrityam, right? That without any tinge of knowledge, any tinge of motivation, karma. Oh, if I do this, then I'm going to get a good room, and I'm going to get the garland, and I'm going to get Mahaprasad, I'm going to get something, nothing. I mean, for me, this is very theoretical. I can tell you that. But sometimes during our life, we are in situations where Krishna almost forces us to do something. Whether it's the guru next to us, or Krishna somehow crashes us, our ego. And then we have to cry, and then we have to chant because we have no other option. So, but ideal is that we are voluntarily doing it. And Prabhupada also says in chapter 6 that sometimes even mechanically we have to push ourselves, chant, wake up, study, do service. But the ideal is that at some point, he explains that in Nectar of Devotion, we do it voluntarily. We do it out of love. I truly want to serve you, my Lord. Or if we, as Samatha Goswami says, I don't know Krishna, right? I don't know Krishna, but I know my Guru Maharaj. So we serve Prabhupada, we serve the devotees. Right? Sorry. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Lord Prabhupada ki.